Hi everybody. Sorry if you hear stuff in the background. That would be my sister and her child. This is going to be interesting. Okay, I'm just going to jump into it because this video is going to be really long. I'm going to warn you. It's a very, very, very long story. It happened over the course of 3 years. Oh yeah, this is a story time, by the way. I don't do story times, but this one was a little bit crazy, or at least I think so. Living it was fucking insane, so I thought telling it would be interesting. So this is a story about a guy who was obsessed with me. And there's a lot of moving parts. I hope you can follow. But I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can. Before I start the story, just disclaimer, like I said, it happened a long time ago, over a long period of time. I don't remember every single detail in detail. I don't remember the order necessarily perfectly, but everything I say is true to the best of my memory. So I'm not lying, I'm not exaggerating. This is just how it was. If I leave things out, it's not on purpose. It's just because I fucking forgot. So let's jump into it. The guy, I'm just going to call him Ted. No, that's not his real name. But we're going to call him Ted for the purpose of the story time. Ted and I went to the same school. That's how we met. We met my second year of college, which was my first year at the school I was at because I transferred. And he was in every single class with me the first semester of my college. And he was basically in every class every year that I had college because we came in the same year. So we had the same schedule almost every single semester. I met him in class and I became really good friends with his roommate, who we will call Luke. So Luke and I became like close friends, and I would go over to their apartment all the time. Ted was friends and roommates with Luke, who was also friends and roommates with two other people who I also became friends with. Their names aren't important, but I just want you to understand that I became friends with all of Ted's roommates at some point. Ted and I became a little bit closer like halfway through the semester, I would say. According to Luke, Ted's crush really began when I started playing D&D with them every Wednesday. So that's when the crush began, but I didn't know that until one day I was hanging out with Ted and he asked me to go and talk to him. He said, "I need to talk to you about something." And I was like, that's weird. I don't know what you could possibly have to talk to me about, because it wasn't like we had been friends for very long. There's not much we would need to talk about, I guess. And it seemed like, why are you like sitting me down to talk about something? So he takes me into his dorm, which isn't weird. Like I said, I've been there before. But then he takes me to his bedroom, which I had never been in before. So that was weird. But then he closes the door and asks me to sit down. So now I'm like really weirded out and really confused because I don't know what the fuck is happening. And it was just really uncomfortable. And Ted is like,
"So I like you, like as more than a friend."
He told me he liked me as more than a friend and basically said, "You don't have to answer now. Answer me in 2 days or 1 day or whatever the amount of days it was and let me know like what your response is." And I was like, okay, will do. And immediately when he told me he had feelings for me, I knew immediately I did not have feelings back. The days pass, it's time for me to give him an answer, and I've had a shitty ass day in general, so I'm like not in a good mood, and then rejecting somebody, especially a friend, just isn't the most pleasant situation. So like I was just trying to get it over with as quickly as possible. So I pull him in and I'm like, "I don't like you like that, but I would love to stay friends. If that's okay with you, like if you want to remain friends, I would love to remain friends." Sup, it's me, future me, editing this video right now. And I forgot to say that I've had guy friends have a crush on me so many times in my life, and I say the same thing, like, "I don't like you back, I'd love to remain friends." And they're like, "Yeah, let's do that." And then their crush, like, they get over it and we move on and we're fine. So I didn't have any reason to believe that this situation was going to be any different. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Okay, continuing on. And he said, "Yes, I would like to remain friends." And then he said, "Is it me or..." And I was being really nice. Like I said, rejecting a friend isn't very fun. So I said, "I just am not interested in dating anyone at all at the moment." And that wasn't a lie. Like I wasn't lying to him. I really wasn't interested in dating anybody at all in the moment, but I didn't want to be like, "Yeah, it's you." So I said that, which I guess was putting him down too lightly. And immediately after the conversation, like the second I rejected him, things got weird. Literally the next day or later that day, he was pissed off at me and not talking to me, which had never happened before, so it was very strange. And he was like,
"You owe me an apology."
I was like, "Why?" And he said,
"You did that, you were very rude to me, blah 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 blah."
And It's like, okay, whatever. And it was from that point forward that things got really weird. And I don't ask me why I remained friends with him, because I don't really know. I think I was holding on to the friendship we had before he told me he liked me, because things were really great before. I don't know why I held on to it, because it wasn't like the best friendship in the world. I don't know why I stayed. I'll just say that now, because you're going to ask me by the end of this video. I don't know. Like I said, things immediately got weird after that, and from that point on, he was doing weird shit. And he was basically, it felt like he thought he was my boyfriend. And I said to him, I always confronted him, I was very blunt, I'm a very straightforward person, that's just how I am. So if I have a problem, I'm just going to straight up say what that problem is to you. I talked to him and I said, I feel like you're acting like you're my boyfriend, and I'm uncomfortable with that, so I'm going to need you to fucking stop. I said it nicer than that, but he was
like, I don't understand how I'm acting like your boyfriend.
And for you, you may be confused right now because you don't know how he was acting like my boyfriend, and I'm about to explain it. He did a bunch of small things that were very strange. For example, he would get very mad at me all the time for shit like that. Like, he'd be like, you owe me an apology, for things that were like really tiny and minuscule and I didn't really owe him an apology for. Also, he got very, very jealous. I didn't have a car at the time, so I relied on my friends to take me to get groceries because I didn't have a meal plan. My school doesn't do that, so you have to buy your own groceries. So I would rely on them to take me to Walmart to get me groceries, and I relied on mainly my roommate, who I will call Brittany, and I relied on Ted. One day I go to Walmart with Brittany and I come back. I'm just having a regular conversation with Ted, and I don't know, it gets brought up and I'm like, yeah, I got groceries yesterday with Brittany, and he got pissed. He got mad, not only that I went to get groceries with her instead of him, but he got mad that I told him I went with her instead of him. He's like,
you know, that upsets me. Why would you tell me you went to Walmart with her and not me?
why are you mad about that? He thought that I was trying to make him jealous when I did things like this. I'm literally just talking about what I did yesterday. He thought everything was our thing. Like, he would think me going to Walmart to get groceries with him was our thing. So if I did it with someone else, he was really upset that I was doing our thing with someone else. He also felt that way about walking back from class. We lived in the same building and we had the same classes, so we walked back to and from class together, and it wasn't like I waited for him outside. He waited for me, which I hated, but we, you know, like, we would run into each other one way or another because we were going to and from the same places, and we'd walk back and forth with each other. He would also say that was our thing, and he got really pissed when somebody else walked back, another friend of mine walked back to the dorms with us one day, because it was our thing, and he ruined it. Another example of his jealousy is I had a friend who we will call Tina, who was also his friend, and we all hung out together all the time, and everything was fine. Like, Tina really liked Ted, and she thought that they were friends. I thought they were friends, and then me and Tina became really close. I hung out with her all the time, and Ted got jealous of that, and he hated her because of that. Because he was so jealous that I hung out with her and she was closer to me than he was. He hated her. He wouldn't admit that. He just said he didn't like her. And literally, if I said her name, he would physically be like he'd physically cringe so hard and be so upset. And he was so mean about her and to her just because I was close with her. And he did that with anybody that I was close to that was not him. And Ted he was very controlling and manipulative. He would go out of his way to do things for me, which you would think is a nice thing, but it made me uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I was like, thank you for doing me favors, but you're going out of your way, and that I don't like, because I feel like you're trying to get something in return by doing that. And that's what he was doing. He would do everything that I asked him to do. Sorry about the crying baby. Because he thought it was gonna make me like him. And when I didn't like him after he did it, he was pissed about it. This led to me wanting to have a conversation with him. And this was something that happened a lot that I don't think should be a thing when you have friends. I've never had this many conversations with a friend in my life. I think when you have friends, you shouldn't have to confront them about things they're doing that often. Like, occasionally, sure, but not this often and to this degree. I would have to sit him down and be like, hey, you're doing this thing and it's making me uncomfortable, can you please stop? And it was like the same thing that I would ask him to stop doing over and over and over. The same conversation over and over and over and over again. Remember when I told you he sat me down to tell me he liked me? Well, that also happened many, many times. I can't even tell you how many times. I can't even tell you about every time he did it because I can't remember every time. but there were specific times that I did remember, which I'm going to tell you about. Another one I remember right now. I wanted to talk to him, and it was a perfect timing because he told me, I need to talk to you. So I meet at this like picnic table and sit down to talk, and he goes first, and he's just basically like, so you like me? What? He literally sits me down and doesn't say, I like you, because at this point that's common knowledge. He says, you like me. What? Before I could even talk, he said, here's the evidence. The evidence. Evidence that I liked him. You want to hear this evidence? You let me hold your purse, and that's a boyfriend thing. Don't even get me started on the gender roles, like the stereotypes. Don't even get me started on that argument, which happened. I was like, excuse me, first of all. Aside from that, the fuck are you talking about? Everybody holds my purse. If I need to grab something off the shelf and my purse is in the way, I'll be like, hey, do you mind holding this? Thank you. It doesn't matter who you are. You're my boyfriend, my best friend, my guy friend. It doesn't fucking matter. Here's another thing to note. I treat all of my friends equally. Every friend, male, female, anything else, all are treated exactly the same. I'm not like grosser around my girlfriends than I am around my guy friends. I'm equally as gross, equally as open, equal. My best friends, I obviously tell more information than my other friends. The way I act is the same regardless of the gender of the friend. The second thing was I asked him to smell a candle, and that is also a boyfriend thing. What? I literally go into stores with my friends and I smell every single candle with them when I go. I'm like, hey, smell that one. Do you not do that with your friends? Like, why is that a boyfriend thing? How is that a... There was like other things I can't even think of that were also equally as ridiculous as those, but those are the two that I was just like, what the fuck are you on about? After he tells me that I like him, I tell him I do not like you. And at this point, I had told him over and over and over that I didn't like him, and he just wasn't getting it. And I realized I can't be nice about it anymore. I realized I had to be harsh. And this is what I said. I said, I do not like you, I have never liked you, and I never will like you. And unless I personally tell you that I like you, I do not. I don't care what anyone else tells you, unless you hear I like you come out of my mouth to you, I don't like you. Harsh, straight, to the point. You can't get confused with that. I don't like you. How could you mess that up? I don't know. After that, I tell him, you're going out of your way for me, and I don't want you to do that. I want to be treated just like all your other friends. Do just as many favors for me as you do for them. Not any more, not any less. Equal with your other friends. I don't want to be number one in your life. I want to be like all your other friends because you're treating me like more than a friend, and that makes me uncomfortable. Please stop. You're doing too much. After that, I could tell he was upset because I had just rejected him rather harshly, so I begged him. I begged him for an entire hour. Please, please tell me how you're feeling. If you have anything else that you want to say right now, please say it. The floor is open. I'm not going to say anything. I just want to hear how you're feeling, hear what you want to say. I'm not kidding you. We were out there for 3+ hours. My roommates were like, what the fuck, when I came inside, because I was outside the dorms. Literally there for so long, and for an entire hour I begged him to say how he felt. He said, everything's fine, I have nothing to say, everything's good, we're good, and walked away. So that was that, and I thought we left on a good note. I thought things were cleared up and better, and turns out he stopped talking to me then, right after that, because he said I was using him. How? How am I using you? How did you get me saying please stop doing so much for me as using you? I'm confused. And also some other things. I'm gonna remember things as we go on because I have a bad memory and they're coming back. It was a long time ago. He would also like get pissed that I didn't want to sit next to him. There was one day when I walked into a classroom, and when I walk into a room, I sit where I want to sit. I look and I'm like, that's the spot I want to sit, and I go sit over there. I don't care where you're sitting, I'm going to sit where I want to sit. He's already seated and I don't sit with him. I sit down, plug my laptop in, and he says,
why are you all the way over there?
I said, I'm using the outlet and this is just where I want to sit. He said,
Come sit over here.
and I said no. And he said,
Come here.
No.
and I said no. He literally stood up and demanded me to sit next to him. He didn't ask. He demanded, like he owned me or he ruined any part of my life. And he got mad when I said no. And there was another person in the classroom who witnessed this because this was in a class, and they were just like, the fuck? She's gonna sit where she wants to sit. Calm down. And I was like, thank you. But he ended up getting really pissed and grumpy and like grumbling, mumbling under his breath. And then he picked up and he sat down next to me. He had to sit next to me. He would not sit next to me. It was like a huge deal. If anybody else sat next to me at D&D, there was hell to pay. He was so mad about it.
Hello, future me back at it again. I forgot a lot of stuff because, like I said, happened over a long period of time. Anyway, he knew I didn't like to be touched and he knew I didn't like to be hugged, but he would force it anyway. And every winter break, he would like purposely come to my room to hug me to say goodbye, even though he knew it made me so uncomfortable. And my best friend was over and I told her, I was like, he's gonna come knock on the door to say bye to me. Answer it. I am not here. But he came, he said goodbye, and one time he was like, I love you, and ran away, and it was really uncomfortable. And also another thing he did, he would try to touch me and it was really creepy. Like one day, here's my point of view, I just felt him like try to touch me and it made me uncomfortable, so I jerked back and looked at him disgusted and said, why are you touching me? And then my friend Luke told me that he ran home that day and he was like, I tried to be cute with her today. And Luke said, what did you do? And he said, I tried to caress her ear. And he was like, how did it go? And he said, terrible. She looked disgusted, which I was. Don't fucking touch me, you creep. But what he basically tried to do is this. He tried to go from the bottom of my ear up like that. Didn't work. He like hardly touched my ear and I flipped out. So he would do creepy shit like that. Thought I'd let you know. Another thing he did, I was gone on winter break and I was just about to come back. It was the day before I was coming back and I got a text from him, like a really long text from him that said, when you get back, I'm taking you to a therapist because you're out of control. You're wearing all this dark makeup now and blah, 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 blah. What the fuck? He also said that I want to be miserable, blah, 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 blah. Later on, he told me that when he saw, this is the picture he saw that concerned him. When he saw this picture, he thought that I was changing the girl that he liked, and he didn't like that. It hurt his feelings. So that's how he reacted. When I did something stylistically that was different that I was doing, which it's not, it's something I've always done, he got mad at me because I was changing the girl he was in love with. What the fuck? You want to take me to a therapist because I wore black lipstick?
Let's talk about my birthday, shall we? Let's do that. Ted was like, I'm gonna take you out for your birthday. And I was like, cool, okay. And he came up with the idea to go to the zoo and to go see The Hateful Eight on my birthday. I like film, I love animals. In theory, a good plan, right? Except for my birthday's in January. Like mid-January is my birthday, so it's cold as fuck. I'm not going to the zoo in mid-January, I'm sorry. I told him no to the zoo, and then I told him no to the movie because I had already told him before, I don't love Quentin Tarantino. I don't hate him at all, but I don't like him so much that when his movies come out, I'm like, I have to see that. Like, there were other films that I would have rather seen than The Hateful Eight. So I told him I'd gladly see a movie, but I didn't want to see Hateful Eight. So he got pissed, and he went to my friend Luke. You remember Luke from the beginning? He went to Luke, and he was just raging. He was like,
I tried to do all these nice things for her birthday, and she just doesn't want to do them. I wanted to see Hateful Eight, and she just doesn't want to see it.
And then one day, my best friend Sarah, shouts out to you, my girl. She decided she wanted to come visit me for my birthday. So stoked. My best friend in the world is gonna come see me for my birthday. I hadn't seen her in a long time. I was super excited. I let Ted know my best friend is coming to visit me for my birthday. And he was like, okay. But to Luke, he went home and he said,
all my plans are ruined. Everything's ruined.
And Luke was like, why are they ruined? And he was like,
her best friend's flying in.
And Luke was like, oh, that's great. And he was like,
no, it's not. I just want it to be me and her.
He was so mad that my best friend was coming to see me on my birthday. And he was so mad that I didn't want to do what he wanted to do on my birthday. My birthday rolls around, it's the day of, and Sarah came up with the idea to go to the planetarium. So we go, tickets are sold out, we're like, what do we do now? And we're like, let's go to the mall. And then we roll around and we go to Build-A-Bear, and I get a Build-A-Bear, which was fun. Here's a picture. This was my 21st birthday, by the way, so we go to the mall, we get that, and then we go to the liquor store, and Ted gets me Fireball, and then we go back to my dorm. Sarah had baked me a cake, so we were going to eat cake and play board games, because that's what I like to do, and drink. And I was like, you know, it's only 2 people here, I think I really should invite Tina, because Tina was a good friend of mine, I wanted her to be at my birthday. So I said, I'm gonna invite Tina. Before Tina came over, I left the room because my mom called me to say happy birthday, so I left the room, and Ted looks at Sarah, who he had met this day. He only met hours ago, and he says, I hate Tina. I'm so mad she's coming over. He also had the audacity to turn to my best friend, who he met hours ago, and ask, is everything she says about her mom true? There's shit that happens in my family. I'm pretty sure there is in every family. I'm not going to go into it. It doesn't need to be gotten into. We don't need to dive into that. But I told him some of the things that happened in my family, in my life in general. He turns to my best friend to ask if I'm a liar about all of those things. As if she's not going to turn around and tell me that you asked that literally the second you leave. What were you thinking? What? First of all, what were you thinking? Second of all, why? Why would you do that? By the way, was not lying about my family. I was telling the truth. The entire birthday, he was very, very rude to Tina, and it was very awkward. Fast forwarding again. Production seasons. Production season is always very, very stressful for everybody involved. Productions, producing a film and directing. Okay, we have to produce, direct, write, edit on our own films. It's a very stressful time, and we all worked on each other's films. Production ones, Ted was my assistant director, and he was really mad because I wasn't paying enough attention to him. And he was also really mad because on his film, I was the assistant director, and we were having a rough time at that time. I can't remember why. There were plenty of reasons. We were always arguing because he was always doing stupid shit. I wasn't the best at my job. I was really great in pre-production, but the day of, I was very quiet and to myself, which is not how the AD should be. The assistant director should be up yo ass. They are the assholes on set. But I didn't do that. So I admit, a really shitty assistant director that day, and he was really pissed about it. We kind of stopped talking for a while because of that. I forgot to say, he was also very angry about production ones because I was the director of photography for Tina's production, and I won Best Cinematography. It's right over there, right there, for that, and she won Best Director, and I think Best Screen. She won a bunch of awards for it, and he was really pissed that she won and he didn't. The production twos roll around. I was the director of photography for my friend Tina's production, for Luke's production, and for his production I was the director of photography. And I had to direct and write and produce my own production. So that was like a really busy semester for me. All in the same couple of months. I was doing 3 things as a director of photography and 1 as a writer, producer, and director. That's a lot. That's a fucking lot. And that's on top of going to class, by the way. Like, I wasn't doing nothing but these films. I was going to class every day on top of doing these films. Anyway, let's start with his production. His production was a shit show. Like I said, I was the director of photography, the cinematographer, I did the camera shit, I was the cameraman, I was also camera operator. He had this scene that was a nighttime scene, and the location he chose was in a room that had a wall completely made of windows, floor to ceiling, and the ceiling was 2 stories high, floor to ceiling windows, 2 stories. So that's like a lot of sunlight is coming in, and he was shooting it during the day. There's no way that I can get duvetine all up and down all of those windows. It would take too much time, it would be too dangerous. There was no way we could do it. The sunlight was going to be in the shot regardless. I said, is there any way we could make it a daytime scene? And he said no. And I was like, okay, well, all I can do is this. And I said, get either blackout curtains or a comforter and some C-stands and grip clips, and I'll just make a giant curtain to block out as much light as I possibly can from the shot. And he was like, okay, and then he never brought those. So he put me in a situation as a cinematographer where I was just trapped and there was nothing I could really do. Like, I could try my best, but I wasn't given the tools I needed to succeed. And I was very, very frustrated on set because it looked like shit. This is the film that I am the least proud of. It is so bad. I am so embarrassed to even say that I was the director of photography. Like, it's so bad. And on set, I kind of lost my cool. He was also starting to do my job. And he was stepping out of line, I mean. So I would go put all these lights up and I'd look at the camera and I'd be like, really frustrated because it didn't look like nighttime and I'm really trying to get it to look nice. And it was taking up a lot of time and he was getting stressed out about it, and he went and he turned my lights off, grabbed the camera and did a thing with the camera. Mind you, he knows literally nothing about cinematography at all. If he knew about cinematography, it'd be fine. But he didn't know anything. That's why he hired me. But he decided to touch my camera and touch my lights and say, that looks good to me. Why would you not trust your cinematographer when they say that does not look good, I am not happy with that, this is bad, and let them do their thing? Why would you just do it yourself? Like, if you want to do it yourself, I'm going home. You don't need me here if you're going to do it yourself. Don't touch my fucking camera. And it got to the point where I could not contain myself anymore and I got very unprofessional and I yelled at him in front of the entire cast and crew. I yelled at him right in front of the actors, right in front of all the crew members. Very awkward, very uncomfortable for them, I'm sure, and very unprofessional of me. And I was very upset because I didn't know a lot of those people. There was a lot of people I had never worked with before, and that was their first impression of me, was this angry, unprofessional person. And that's not who I am on set. It's just not. Safe to say after that, him and I were really not friends. Scooting on to Luke's production, I was also director of photography on, and Luke was the director. And we were on a dolly. If you don't know what a dolly is, this is what it is. Him and I were on this dolly together, and it's kind of big, but when you sit on it, two people sit on it, it's small. You're cramped together around a tiny camera trying to see a tiny screen. Him and I worked very closely together, not only because of the close quarters, but because we're director and cinematographer. We need to work together to make this come out the way he had envisioned. We're following each other around like ducklings, like, does this look good? Are you happy with this? What do you think of this? The whole time, because that's our job, that's what we do. And Ted was on this set as well, and he was, I think, like a grip or something. He was just like out on the sidelines watching this happen kind of deal. After Luke's production wrapped, Ted sits him down and tells him that he was acting inappropriate with me on his own set. He was like,
you guys were way too close together. She gets your arms brushed. It was disgusting. I almost threw up. You can't do that. It's like, you can't do that.
And he was trying to tell Luke that what he did was wrong and that he was not allowed to do that around me. We literally did nothing that I wouldn't do with any other director, regardless if we were friends or not. Like, we were just doing our jobs. When you're on this tiny little thing, trying to look at a tiny camera screen, your hands are gonna brush against each other occasionally. Your arms are gonna touch. We're gonna be hovering over each other. And even if him and I were flirting or doing something of that nature, you're my friend. You don't have a right to be upset about that. You don't have a right to tell him that he can't do that. You don't get to control me, and you don't get to control your friends, and you don't get to control the people around me. You can't control people. It's not your job, and I am not your object. I am not your possession. People don't have to listen to what you have to say about how they act around me. So this became a pattern of him trying to control people, and I could go on and on forever, and I know this video is already long. He literally, in his mind, I was his girlfriend. Mind you, I had never once in my life gave him any reason to believe that I liked him. I was never doing anything to him to make him think that he was my boyfriend or anything more than a friend. Nothing, ever. I'm gonna fast forward again. I don't think I need to tell you every little thing that happened. I feel like I want to tell you every little thing that happened because everything is so ridiculous, and I feel like I'm not gonna say enough and then you're not gonna understand the full extent of what happened. But you don't need to know every detail. I'm sure you've heard enough about his jealousy and his controllingness, so I'm just gonna keep going with the timeline and just try to move past the details. We have parties, we had parties like rap parties after we did productions, and it was me, Luke, Ted, his other 2 roommates, and a couple of our other friends. And during that, one of Luke and Ted's roommates got up to get a drink. And he, like I said, he's my friend, and he turned around and he said, "Hey, did anyone want a drink while I'm up?" And I said yes. So Luke got me a drink and gave it to me. We were all having fun and playing games, and it got to a point where Ted was like tired. He was very rude to his roommates. He was like, and his friends. They were his friends, mind you. He was like, "You guys are being really fucking annoying. Like, I can't stand any of you right now." And then he was like, "I'm going to bed." And then he went, and then he came back out, and he was like, "You guys need to go to bed. This is over, blah, blah." Like, he was just being so pissy about it. And he was just being really rude to everybody. So the next day, I'm hanging out with Luke, and we went to see, like, Deadpool or something. We saw a movie, and when we got out of the movie, Luke got 36 text messages. 36. And he was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "What?" And he said, "Ted emailed everybody, all the roommates, giving them rules." And I was like, "I'm sorry? What?" The 36 messages he got was the email broken down into text messages, because the friend that sent it had an Android, not an iPhone, so they sent in different things. The email was titled, "The Rules of Etiquette in Regards to Me." He sent this to all of his friends. And some of the rules included: 1, when she comes over, you will not answer the door for her, I will. No taking your shirt off around her. It makes her uncomfortable and makes her want to leave sooner, which I had never said. And my friends, they said if she was uncomfortable, she'd let us know, like, "You're lying." And he said, "No, she just told me to tell you, and she doesn't want you to say anything because it makes her uncomfortable." He literally completely lied about it, because it made him uncomfortable when they took their shirts off around me because he was jealous. I never said that to him, so. I forgot to mention that when my friends drink, they like to take their clothes off. I don't know. It's just funny to me. If she asks for a drink, don't get it. That's my responsibility to do. Oh, the reason I mentioned the drink thing earlier, because he said after my friend got me a drink when he got up, he said,
When she asked for a drink, all of you were drooling over her. It was disgusting.
I'm so upset that somebody got me a drink that wasn't him, so he put it in the rules. Treat her like my girl. When she's around, she's my girl. Sorry, continuing. If her and I are having a conversation, do not interrupt. That is precious time. Okay, so as you can hear by the email, he literally said she is my girl when she is around. He literally claimed me as if I'm a possession to be claimed. Without my consent, said I am his girl. I am not your girl. I did not consent to that. I did not consent to anything more than a friendship. And I don't know how to explain how violating and disgusting and gross this made me feel inside. He would stare at me all the time. I didn't like when he touched me. It felt gross. It felt very violating, and just, it felt very perverted. It did, and I don't know how to put that into words. It's just really disgusting and controlling and fucking gross. It's gross. I'm not yours. I'm not. You don't get to claim me like I am. After this email was sent, he had been trying to control his friends and I for 3 years at this point, and they were fed up. That email was it for them, and they literally had an intervention with him. They sat him down and said, "You can't do this anymore. This is not okay," because it was that bad. And he said to them, "I'm not her friend anymore, so you can't be either." I don't remember what was the final straw. I really don't. I don't remember what happened that I was just like, this is it. I can't do it anymore. Something happened, and I finally was just like, I can't. It was around the same time that his friends had the intervention that I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. And I sent him a text messages, and I was mean in the text message. I was like, fuck you, we are not friends, we were never friends. Pterodactyl or my niece? Who knows? I got it all off my chest, I just ended it. After that, we had a year where we were still in school together and we had classes together, but we were not friends. He would write scripts that were very obviously about me, like the characters were about me and him, and it was so uncomfortable because we had to read them out loud in class, and the person who wrote the script chose who played what part. So he would choose me to play parts of the girls that he wanted me to play, and I'd have to say things like I love you and just really gross shit that I didn't want to say. It was uncomfortable as hell. And honestly, I didn't notice he was there most of the time, but he did do really passive-aggressive things and very rude things in class. Like when we looked over people's stuff, he would not give any feedback on mine or Luke's stuff because, oh yeah, he stopped being Luke's friend after him and I stopped being friends because Luke and I remained friends, and Ted told him that's fucked up.
What did I do when you broke up with your girlfriend? I was there for you, blah, 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 blah. I bought you drinks. And when I lose my girl, you're her friend?
And he was like, but she was never your girl, so... They stopped being friends, so he was very rude to both me and Luke, because we all had classes together still. But for the most part, I literally didn't even notice he was there. And the whole reason I'm making this video is because after a year of like things being dormant, things being normal and nothing happening, my last day of class, I had to give my senior presentation. I did this great speech, and my car, which I didn't have until after Ted and I stopped being friends, mind you, my car was in the parking lot while I was giving my presentation. When I came out, I found a card left in my windshield, and I'm gonna show you that card now. This is the card. It's covered in smiley faces, yes, and when you open the card, it reads, "Good luck in life, Moonchild. Thanks for the memories." It has a smiley face inside. It's not signed with a name. There's no name on it, but I have seen his handwriting many a times, so I know his handwriting very well. My first impression of this card was, that's really weird. He left me a nice card. I thought it was genuine when I first read it. But then the more I thought about it, the more I talked about it, I realized that this was not genuine. I knew this guy very well. We were friends for like 2 to 3 years. He was not the person who apologized. He was never in his life the bigger person. He would never do something like this and be genuine about it. He was very arrogant. He was very sarcastic. His humor was very sarcastic. He was very sarcastic with people he didn't like too, but in like a very arrogant, rude way. When I really thought about this, I thought of how sarcastic this is. Also, notice it read Moonchild. He put Moonchild, not my name. That's a little weird, right? But what makes it weirder is I never, ever, ever told him my YouTube channel. He knew I had a YouTube channel, and I told him I did, but I told him I did not want him knowing what it was. I don't tell people I know my YouTube channel. I don't tell them what it is. I'll tell them I have one, but I never tell anybody what it is except for my very, very closest friends. And nobody can find me. Many, many, many people have tried to find me on YouTube by looking up my name, looking up blah, whatever they look up, and no one has been able to find me. Everybody begs me to let them know what the channel name is. I won't do it. No one can find the channel. But he found it. And he knows that I didn't want other people to know about my YouTube channel. So him signing my YouTube channel instead of my name was saying like, I know your secret. He was letting me know that he knew my secret. He knew something that I didn't want other people to know. Another note, thanks for the memories. Seems like just a nice thing, like thank you for the memories. I know like this didn't end well, but thank you for the memories. Except, like I told you, we had writing classes together where we read the scripts out loud with one another. And I wrote a script. Do you know what it was called? Do you know what the script was called? It was called Thanks for the Memories. Do you know what the script was about? It was inspired. It wasn't written about me, but it was inspired by the fact that I've moved around my whole life. I bounce around in a lot of places. I grew up in a military family. That's just how I've lived my life. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me do something with that. So I wrote a story about a girl who ran from her past. Whenever anything happened that wasn't right, or she didn't like, she would move entirely to a different place and try to start over. It was also inspired because I always see people that are like, I wish I could move to a different place and be a new person. And it just made me think of this idea. So basically, the premise of the story is you cannot run away from your problems. Your problems follow you. Wherever you go, it will follow you. So let's put all of that together. Sarcastic, card was full of smiley faces that says, "I know your secret and you can't run from your problems," with no name signed on it. Are you creeped out? Are you? Freaky, right? What the fuck are you? I wasn't gonna even make a video about the situation. I was just like, whatever, I don't care, until I got this card, because everything is like, it wasn't so intense that I'd make a video about it, but the card was like the cherry on top that was like, he's fucking insane, let's make a video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am so sorry it's this long. I don't want to make videos this long. I don't think I'm entertaining enough to pull off long videos like this, but I hope you guys did enjoy. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. I will say that I don't want to talk about this anymore. I wanted to make a video kind of as like the final shebang, like here's what happened, and leave it at that. If you leave comments on the video and there are questions about the thing, I'll answer them, but I'm not going to make other videos about this. It's not going to be like a thing, this was this and that's it. But if you do have questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video and you want to hear more stuff about it, like you want to hear more story times from me for some strange reason, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, feel free to do so by clicking the button below and turn on my post notifications so you will be notified every time I make a post. Thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye.